YouTube, hello. Today, I just thought I would come on here and have like a nice raw talk with you guys, and the topic is going to be about the three phases that we as traders we go through. Okay, the first phase is the learning curve. Okay, is when we are learning the concept of trading, learning an edge. The next one is the analyst of us, or of a trader. Okay, and that will come into very specific things which we'll talk about that. So this is going to be a very raw talk. I don't have anything scripted here. I just thought I would come on here and talk about this. And then the third one is the executor of a trader. So let's talk about the learning phase. Okay, so the learning phase is where we find a YouTube video, we scroll through Instagram, we see people making money online, all this lavish lifestyle. That's what attracted that's what attracted me. Okay, I was 18 years old and I always wanted not to work for someone since a young age. And so whatever got you to trading, it doesn't matter how you got to trading, as long as you stick into it, that's what it matters, right? So so the first phase is the learning curve, okay? Is where we are very intrigued to learn. We're very also intrigued to earn money, to make money as fast as we can, so we can escape the reality that we're living in, right? I'm sure that's what a lot of people got involved in. If you are probably the 1%, 2% of people who go into trading by family member or through college or through a banking internship, whatever it is, then it's the same concept at the end of the day, where we come into the trading world to make money. At the end of the day, we're here to make money. That's as simple as that. And so yeah, the learning curve is basically where we are learning, we get excited. Every little video that we do, we think it's easy, right? We look at a video and we see a video and we're like, wow, this is actually quite easy. When we are learning, right? We are learning, we think it's easy. Then we come into the markets when we shouldn't come into the markets because we're not ready to come into the markets, into the real life market, right? And then we get bumped. Or you start trading demo and start risking so much money. You're like, wow, I can really do this, right? From all the videos that you've been learning. So the learning curve is probably, I don't know. My learning curve took me about, to really be in flow and to really know what I was looking at, probably 2 years. But within them 2 years, I switched. I had like 3 strategies, if I'm not wrong, until I found the man himself, ICT, the Inner Circle Trader. I'm sure you guys have known. I've been with ICT since 2022. I did dig before into his like primer videos, like primer market maker models and stuff like that before, but I didn't pay much attention. But one of the guys I started my journey with, he actually went on to his last mentorship that ICT created, was in 2020, 2021. He actually managed to get in it, which is pretty good. And since then, the people around who I started with, only 2 remain, and we are very good friends now. And yeah, but either way, back to the learning curve. So we're learning, we think it's easy, we get excited, and yeah, so the learning curve, right? We are learning, we get excited, and we see other people killing it. We start following a lot of people on Instagram, on Twitter, and we join some Discords and to get to know these traders, get to talk to traders, so on and so on, right? Then we start to see someone else doing something better, so you start to question it. With, for example, myself was the higher R's, right? Back in the day, I was in a community, and why I joined them was because they were promoting these higher R's, right? So we start a new journey of learning a new edge again, a new strategy again, right? So that's the learning curve, right? If you are with the right people and the right environment, you probably could potentially dial that learning curve a lot lower if you're learning from the right people who is interested in teaching newbies, right? New traders coming up, which there's always a place in this market for newbies to come into play. And I think trading is one of the best skills to have in the world, technically, physically, and mentally also, okay? Because trading will teach you a lot about yourself, okay? So that learning phase is about technicals, right? And then we start to discover that actually trading is more than just technicals, right? It's about how you perceive yourself, right? Because the markets are just a mirror of who you are, okay? And we start to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and then we start to finalize the idea that, wow, we wasted so much time with our life going to school and so on and so on. But I'm not going through that because that's a very deep topic that I don't really talk about just yet, but I can dig deeper with that another time. But and then we have phase 2, okay, of a trader. We become analysts, okay? And the analysts of ourselves, right, is when we start to see the markets move. We have learned the edge that we want to focus on for the time being. We start to journal our forecasts. We start to compare our forecast with the mentor that you're learning from, and then you start to see that you're starting to see the same things as your mentor, right? Whoever that may be. And that way, yeah, you start to gain confidence. But here's the thing, here's a big but you can't execute it because you don't have the skill yet, right? You are a great analyst, and I can relate this to myself, right? I was a great analyst, right? I was seeing every single move happen in the market, and I forecasted every single one of them. But guess what? I didn't take any of them, or I took one and it was a loss. So I didn't want to focus on that narrative no more because I took a loss. So that analyst comes into play, and you start to get analysis paralysis, right? Where you focus too much on one thing, and then you start learning so many things from what you learned previously on the phase 1 of your learning curve of a trader, right? And yeah, you get to that phase of analyst. You start to see the forecast start coming into play, but you can't execute on it. And then, the best thing to do with that, I think every trader has to go through these phases, because it's very, very important to go these 3 phases, because this is what shapes you as a trader. But of course, if you have someone behind you looking after you, then that journey can go from a 5-year journey to maybe a 2.5-year, 3-year journey of progress and becoming consistent, profitable. And within that phase 2, right, of you becoming an analyst, you might or may not start seeing progress in profit, in money wise, right? Phase 2 is probably where you are a bit more self-aware. You know who you want to become, you know what trader you want to become, and so on, right? That's the development stage of yourself, not as a trader, but as you as a human being, okay? Where you start to read or watch podcasts, you start to meditate, whatever it is that you learned to be more self-aware and so on, and you start to wake up a little bit more to life. That's your phase 2 analyst. The phase 3 is the most, in my opinion, the most difficult stages is going from phase 2 to phase 3, becoming analyst to become a executor, okay? Because when you become an executor, your analyst, in my opinion, from my own previous experiences, Okay, if you guys don't know yet, my name is Raphael. I've been in the market since 2019. Okay, I started learning in 2019. So that's coming up to 6 years soon. Okay. And I've had ups, I've had downs, and then I have ups. But now, in 2022, I became profitable after 2.5 years of not seeing much progression. I've made money, but then lost all the money that I've gained, and so on and so on. So I was a losing trader, then I became a break-even trader, then I became funded, then I lost the funding due to my Forex funds. If you guys are old school still here in this market, they got shut down, right? I was funding with them. I went into the VIP stage with them. So they had a phase where if you shown enough consistency, they move into a VIP account where you can withdraw every single day. And yeah, I got to that stage. Then my Forex funds went bust, and I also went bust. And I didn't really, and I struggled a lot. Not with trading, but more self-belief and a lot of limiting beliefs that I had. Because I only had a bit of success, and I've seen people around me succeed. So I had that belief that this can work, but with myself, I couldn't still see it. And here's a good book that I recommend, Psycho Cybernetics. I'm not sure if you guys heard, but I will show you. This book here, very good book. And yeah, that book, I've had that book for about 4 years now, and every time I've read it, I've seen something. I've knowledge something new every time. And in the book it says that you can only see something once you have experienced a bit of success. Okay, so I experienced a bit of success and I start seeing it. But then I went through a phase of being in the analyst phase again. So I went through a phase of learning, phase 1, then phase 2 analyst for about a year, I think I would say. And then phase 3, I was probably there for about 6 to 9 months of that executor phase. Then I went into the analyst phase because it's just that self belief and that limited beliefs that I had, and I had to conquer them, right? And recently, probably about 9-12 months ago, that's when I started to see again my consistency coming into play. All my years of hard work that I put down, since I started this journey, everything around my life has been around trading. Everything has been around trading, no matter what. This is my dream, okay? And the dream is to be free, okay? And many people consider, what is freedom, right? And the best freedom I can describe is time freedom. Because once you have time freedom, it means you have money freedom, right? Financial freedom. If you have time freedom, you have location freedom, right? So the time freedom comes down to these 3 pillars: financial freedom, location freedom, and time freedom. But time freedom, without time freedom, you don't have these 2, okay? So you need time freedom to have these 2. So yeah, either way, sometimes I'll go on a rant. But let's go back to phase 3. Phase 3 is the executor bit. And the executor bit is where you don't focus on much analysis, okay? Right now, I don't focus much on analysis. I don't care if the market's going up or if the market's going down. I don't care. All I care is I come into my session and I'm seeing what is the current session doing? What's the current price action doing? I don't care what price is going to do in the next 3 months. I couldn't care less, okay? Because I'm a short-term trader. Now, if you're a position trader, that's a different story. So that's what you have to determine what you want to be as a trader. Do you want to be a short-term trader, a day trader, intraday trader, or a swing approach trader? There's different phases for all of that. if you're a swing trader, you have to focus more on a longer term perspective of the market. But because I'm very short term trader, day trader, I don't care much about the longer term vision of the market. Of course, I look at daily, weekly, monthly, I look all of that, but I look all of that in terms of liquidity. Okay, I want to see what the liquidity is. I don't care what it's gonna do. Okay, and that's what a lot of people have to see as a phase 3 of a trader, the executor part of you as a trader. Okay, that's where you're gonna make your money. Okay, and that's where you're gonna become your best version of yourself as a trader, is when you are on phase 3. You are an executor. You execute the edge every single week, no matter what. And that phase 3 is the most challenging phase, because you have to ignore everyone and you have to focus on you. That's where the most profits and lessons come into place, when you start to ignore everyone. Okay, and like for example, I don't expect you to take my message full on. Okay, I want you to go and experience it yourself. Okay, because when we are learning, for example, in phase 1, we listen to so many opinions, right? And then now opinions is what makes our phase 2 much harder, because we become more analysis paralysis. Oh, John over there said this, Speed over there said this, and Mohammed over there said this. Okay, now you have 3 voices in your head. Now, if you were so obsessed with the trading, I'm sure you've heard and seen so many podcasts, right? I'm assuming so, because I did. So many people talking about different aspects, how they approach trading, how they don't approach trading. Okay, but they have their audience, and people who can relate to them will stick with them, right? And the audience that will listen to me will stick with me. Okay, that's how we all work. You know, we are social creatures. That's how we all work, right? And so yeah, the executor phase is the most critical phase. This is the phase that is going to make you or break you. But hopefully, with a mentor behind your back, with someone looking back behind your shoulder and pushing you to your limits, that phase can be a lot easier than it is, right? I've always wanted to do things by myself. I think that's the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to do things by yourself, is by taking the losses, taking lessons, reviewing it, learning and going in, fail, and then you start to see the success. Success in trading comes in very fast, in the aspects of, you may not see results for a while, but once you see it, you can feel it. You can feel it when you're looking at the market, okay? And when you finished your session, you can feel it, the success. You can feel, because you're reading price in a calm manner way. You're executing your edge in a calm manner way. And then, of course, the P&L is going to start increasing. Then he's going to start taking payouts, and so on and so on and so on. So that's the 3 phases that traders go through, okay? If you guys like this type of videos, let me know, like this type of raw talks. I've had no script, as you can see, because I went off topic quite multiple times. And yeah, just follow me on socials, okay? Yeah, the socials are down below in the bio, okay? Just drop a comment on what you'd like to see more. Is it more trading related? Is it more of these talks, or market breakdowns? Market breakdowns, I can do that also. You can see my style of trading from my previous videos here on this channel, and you can also connect with me on Instagram also, or Twitter. So let me know, and yeah, just make sure to like this video. If you found it helpful, share it with a trader that might need it, that might need this type of message, okay, this type of raw talk. And yeah, just make sure to like and follow and subscribe, okay guys? Yeah, I think I spoke everything I had to say, and yeah, peace.